This week's Torah reading, Shlach, is all about Moses sending spies in order to reconnoiter the land of Israel to discover how it is to be conquered. But they give themselves a totally different mission. They decide that they're going to explore whether it can be conquered. And that's a direct challenge on God, because God can't allow them to conquer the land. God controls the whole universe. He can also control a small piece of land in the Middle East called Israel. But they reject God's providence and they slander the land. And 10 of the 12 tribes come back and they say terrible things about the land of Israel. It's Eretz Achelet Yashveh, consumes its inhabitants. It's a place of conflict, place of war. There are giants there, and we can't control them. There's Hamas, there's Hezbollah. What do we need this for? We Jews are better off in the diaspora. We Jews are better off living, like in Europe. We're not better off living in Europe. We're better off living in Florida. Better off living in New York. Even that's getting challenging these days. Isn't that unbelievable? Better off living in Los Angeles. Pretty challenging there too. But we don't want to go to Israel. Israel destroys its inhabitants, and it's just surrounded by too much war and conflict. We want an easy life. They slander the land. Talk about an ancient biblical story that has so much modern resonance. I mean, God Almighty, the resonance. Look at how many people didn't support Israel in the recent war. Look how many Jews are maligning Israel. Look how many Jews are attacking Israel. It's just shocking. Some of the biggest attacks against me for being a supporter and defender of Israel come from my fellow Jews. Maybe in an effort, you know what it is. Self-hatred has always been a Jewish problem. I'll tell you why. Because when you are a minority that experiences so much external hatred for so many thousands of years, you begin to internalize it. You begin to believe maybe there really is something wrong with us. I saw that Henry Kissinger said when he was Secretary of State, this is in the Walter Isaacson biography, he said there has to be a reason that the Jews were hated for thousands of years. Well, thanks, Henry. I guess there must be a reason why blacks were hated for thousands of years. It can't be that white racism. It must have been that there's something wrong with them. No, not. Oh, the reason why women were treated like crap for thousands of years must be because women are disgusting, not men. No. It was men who brutalized women. So the Henry Kissinger comment is stupid. He's a very smart man who can say stupid things. But as it applies to Jewish self-hatred and Jewish anti-Semitism, and yes, there is such a thing as Jewish anti-Semitism, when you internalize so much hate for so many thousands of years, you begin to think maybe there's something really wrong with us. So what you do is you begin to criticize your own people, and then you make a name for criticizing your own people. Take my friend, Peter Beinart. Yeah, I shouldn't use quotation marks, because I am kind of friendly with Peter Beinart, and he used to come, when I was the rabbi at Oxford University, he used to come and have Shabbos dinner with us. But take Peter Beinart. Peter Beinart, who I've debated many times, me and Brett Stevens have debated him. Peter Beinart's famous for one thing. He's famous for being a Jew, sometimes Israel. He's famous for being a Jew who denies that there should be a Jewish state, because he keeps on pushing the envelope. Because I guess to stay relevant to news, he needs to always come up with a new outrageous comment about Israel. So the most recent thing is that there shouldn't be a Jewish state. But that's what he's known for. So some of the worst things said about Israel actually come from fellow Jews. The African American community, the black community, has also contended with so much hatred shown to them by racists that, as Spike Lee shows brilliantly about the life of Malcolm X, many in the black community went through a period where they wanted to straighten their hair, or they wanted to bleach their skin, the same way we see Jews changing their name or changing ethnic characteristics, so as not to look too Jewish, not to sound too Jewish. Because when you are hated by the people around you, the societies and cultures around you for so long, you begin to think, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. But the African American community, the black community, has really processed a lot of it. Now you see great Black pride. You see Black Lives Matter demonstrations throughout the United States, around the world. We don't see that with the Jewish community. We're still processing so much of the anti-Semitism shown to us, and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's because Israel really deserves it." Now you see that this is an ancient problem. Even back then, the spies that Moses sent to reconnoiter the land of Israel, they had a slave mentality. They were slaves in Egypt. They had a slave mentality. They did not understand how they could be free men. They didn't believe that they could actually defeat the armies of Canaan, the armies of the Hittites. They thought that they would be annihilated. They looked at Hamas and said, "Oh my God, they're much stronger than us." So they said horrible things about Israel, and they slandered the land. God, as I said, talk about an ancient biblical story that has such strong modern relevance. Wow. So what to do? First of all, there's an incredible verse in this week's Torah reading that says, the 12 spies come back, 10 are slandering the land, they're attacking Israel, the way you may see Jews attacking Israel today. And they say, we saw these giants, and we were in their eyes. We were in our own eyes as if we were grasshoppers, as if we were cockroaches, and that's how we appeared to them. To these big giants, we look like insects. But the verse first says that we appeared in our own eyes as if we were cockroaches and grasshoppers, and that's how we appeared to them. Wow. When you see yourself as a cockroach, as a nothing, if you see yourself as ugly, then that's what you project to the outside world. So all the Jews who experience so much self-loathing, self-hatred, you project that to the rest of the world, and they see that these Jews really don't like themselves. There must be something wrong with them, and they attack, Not that they need reason to attack. Blame the anti-Semites for their anti-Semitism. You don't blame Jews for anti-Semitism, but it just reinforces to them that their disgusting preconceived notions are true about some Jews because they themselves seem to be condemning Israel as well. And we were in our own eyes as if we were cockroaches, and that's how we appeared in their eyes as well. What a powerful verse, and how relevant. That's why we need, more than ever right now, we need visible Jews. We need Jews who stand up proudly for their identity. We need Jews who know who they are and who are not afraid to assert who they are. The Lubavitcher Rebbe says brilliantly that one of the things that irked these spies and the reason that they slandered Israel is that they had a beautiful, what they saw as beautiful, nomadic existence in the desert. They didn't have to work because God provided their food, manna from heaven. They weren't encumbered by labor. They weren't, they had, according to the Midrash, the rabbinical legend, their actual clothes grew on their back. I'm wearing a cycling t-shirt. I'm about to go on a bike. God willing, it's a nice day here. We've had a lot of nice days this week. But their clothes grew up on their back, and they had water from the Bear Miriam, the well of Miriam, that followed them everywhere. So they had this idyllic existence. They could be studious. They didn't have to contend with the affairs of the world. They weren't being condemned and criticized by the UN, by the EU, by all the Israelite haters. They wanted to stay in the desert and be left alone. Stay in Miami, stay in New York. We don't have to go to Israel. We don't have to experience criticism. And that's why they said, this land is going to consume us. We're going to become condemned, criticized. And you see more and more Jews saying now, maybe Israel wasn't a blessing at all. Maybe we didn't need an Israel. They forget the Holocaust. They forget all the pogroms for 2,000 years. They forget the Crusades. I'm reading this incredible book by an Oxford professor about the Crusades right now. They forget about the annihilation of European Jewry during the Crusades. They forget about the auto da fe. They forget about the Spanish Inquisition. They forget about the Spanish expulsion. I could go on and on and on about thousands of years of anti-Semitism. They forget about 1.5 million Jewish children turned into ash, soap, and lampshades in the Holocaust. They forget about all that. And that's not even the reason we have Israel. Israel's our homeland based on ancient biblical prophecy. It's the ancient Jewish heartland. It's the heart of the Jewish people. But even as a secure bastion, we need Israel. So all these Jews, they forget it. We were better off in the diaspora. People forget. Just what happened just 75 years ago. I guess what I'm saying is there are so many people in the Jewish community who are okay with a weak Israel, or they're okay with a weak Jewish people. They're okay with the Jewish people who are studious, people of the book. But people of the Galil, people of the Uzi, people of the M16, they're not comfortable with that. Even when it's only used for defensive purposes. The IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, is to use to defend Jewish life. But they actually embrace Jewish powerlessness. Jewish victimhood is something that turns them on. But Jewish power, Jews standing up for themselves and making sure that never again means never again. We're going to fight. We're going to be strong. We're never going to let people kill us. We're never going to let people annihilate us. They have an issue with that, which is freaking bizarre, because how special can you be as a people when you're dead? How special can you be as a people when you're annihilated? How special can you be as a people when you're gassed? How special can you be in your people when you're cremated? How special can you be as a people when you're shot in the back of your head into a ravine in Babi Yar in the Ukraine? You can't be special when you're dead. Death is not special. Stop with the martyrdom thing. Stop believing that dying for some great cause is the way you're supposed to live, which is an oxymoron. No, you're supposed to live. And if forced to die for a great cause, you embrace it reluctantly, because Judaism believes in life. And we don't glorify martyrdom. And I'm sick of those who do glorify martyrdom. I mean, that's what these spies got wrong back then. They said to Moses, we prefer the powerlessness of living here in the desert, being exposed to the elements. We don't have to fight for what we believe in. And people will just leave us alone, let us stay in the desert, or even go back to Egypt and have a subjugated servitude of being slaves rather than have to fight for our freedom. And they were wrong, and they were wrong, and they were wrong. That's why the Torah reading is so powerful this week. My God, does it resonate. My God, does it resonate with modern times. For all those people who want to see Israel decimated or Israel not exist, and all those Jews who believe that we were better off before in Israel, now we're being criticized, and the UN doesn't like us, the EU doesn't like us, and then campus students don't like us. Well, you know what? This is not a popularity contest. The world has not been righteous for a long time. The world has often chose the evil side for a long time. Hitler was adulated. Let's not forget that even people like Chamberlain waved a piece of paper, peace with Hitler, peace in our time. I believe the Fuhrer would never break his word. Right. This is not the first time, as the world chooses Hamas over Israel, that we've chosen evil over good. It's not the first time. And life is not a popularity contest. Life is about justice and righteousness and goodness. And Israel is just and righteous and good. And we support Israel. And we support the right of democracies to be free and to fight terrorists. And you have to fight in the PR battle as well, because it's enough of seeing the good maligned. So these spies got it all wrong, and we're getting a lot of people getting it wrong today. And that's why the Bible is so relevant and so incredibly applicable to our daily lives. Let me look at some of your comments here. A lot of good comments. Stand tall and proud and live. Leah Rubin, thank you. Yeah, proud Jew. People are telling me that. We need a rally in D.C. I've said that. Rachel, I've said that over and over again. We need a rally in D.C. I know we need a rally in D.C. Is that Ina? I think the BDS movement and BLM have driven quite a schism between young Jews and the diaspora. Well, you know what? A lot of that schism was there before. I commend the African-American community for standing up for their lives, for standing up for their rights, for standing up for their dignity. I actually think the Jewish community should emulate that kind of assertion of pride. I'm not talking about the people who have been part of Black Lives demonstrations that led to violence. They are not, I'm not going to even tar and feather Black Lives Matter with their disgusting violence, because BLM has rejected their violence. But I do believe the way Black Lives Matter marches for Black lives, we should have marches for Jewish lives. I commend the Black community for saying enough is enough and we're not going to take it anymore. And I wish the Jewish community, seeing all the anti-Semitism, people being beaten up in the streets, all the Jew hatred, people like the head of diversity of Google saying recently that Jews love war, that Jews are addicted to war. I mean, I don't want the guy to lose his job, because I'm not part of the cancel culture. I want him to frickin' apologize. He has to repudiate those disgusting words. Okay, let me see on Facebook. What have you guys been telling me? Melissa, justice, amen, Am Yisrael Chai. Agreed, Am Yisrael Chai. Let me see what else. So many messages. Thanks, everybody. Rabbi, there's no glory in being hated. There's no glory in waving around the sword of Esav and calling yourself Yaakov. What? That's Lee Weissman. Lee, what are you talking about? Is there any glory in dying? Is there glory in having the SS block a giant metal door behind you and gassing your children to death? God forbid. Choose life. Choose life. Navid, why does Hamas put innocent people in harm's way? I'll tell you why. Because Hamas has contempt for Palestinian life. Palestinians only exist as PR victories for Hamas. The more Palestinians die, the more they can blame Israel for their deaths. Eva, I'm Catholic, but I love watching and listening to you, Rabbi Shmuley. I love everything about the Jewish faith. I'm sorry all this is happening. Thank you. Well, my Catholic brothers and sisters are just that, my brothers and sisters. As a mother, I'm heartbroken watching the violence in Israel. Yes, indeed. And what about all the verbal violence online, Eva? The phenomenal, the anti-Semitism, the character assassination of the Jewish people. It's incredible. Michael, consider if Jews are God's chosen people, as the Bible affirms, then the world will always be opposed to Jews. Those who hate God hate the people. Well, there is truth to that, and still we have to fight to win the battles in the marketplace of ideas. Linda, criticism of Israel is not anti-Semitism. Zionism is a political philosophy, not a religion. Oh, I agree with that. Of course you can criticize Israel. You criticize Hamas from Gaza, you're dead. Criticize Israel, you're called an Israeli. There's a difference, however, between criticism and demonization. When you engage in extreme demonization and you lie about Israel and you say that Israel engages in genocide, that's not criticism. That's fraudulence, and it's character assassination, and it's libel, and it leads to Jews being attacked. Because once you portray the Jews successfully as monsters, then if you beat them up in Times Square, you're doing the world a service, because Jews are monsters. Afak, free Palestine, Israel's a killer state, racist rabbi. That's the mantra of the Israel haters. What they do is they flip the script. You see what they're saying? I'm the racist rabbi. Hamas are the ones that don't allow Jews. So many Arab states don't allow Jews. But of course, we the Jews, Israel has 2 million Arab Palestinian citizens, we're the racists. They flip the script. And of course, Hamas is a terror organization according to the EU, according to the State Department, according to the United States. But they flip the script. They say, oh, Israel is the terror state. So there's all Israel's opponents do is they take everything that's true about Hamas and they just flip it and say, oh, just switch the word Hamas for Israel. And now, so the truth is, Hamas fires missiles against innocent civilians to murder them. They say, oh, Israel does that. Hamas brutalizes women. Israel does that. Here's the one thing they can't flip. Who was that? Afak, let me ask you a question. Just write this. This is one thing you can't flip. Write to me right now that you believe that Hamas should allow a gay pride parade in Gaza City, the way we have it in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv. This is Pride Month, right? I want you to write that you believe that Hamas should not murder LGBT Palestinians and should allow them to freely express their identity in public in Gaza. Just write it. I dare you. Let me see if you write it. Seriously. Any of you who are in the Free Palestine thing. Okay, guys. Hope you enjoyed this week's Torah reading. Parsha Shlach. Go to synagogue and listen to it. Read it by yourselves. It's beautiful. The Bible is so relevant. And don't forget, we have a big launch of my book, Holocaust Holiday, One Family's Descent into Genocide Memory Hell. Me, Bret Stephens, the Pulitzer Prize winning New York Times columnist, and the Consul General of Poland, my dear friend Adrian, will be there. So go online now, Eventbrite, the World Values Network, and book your tickets quickly. It's June 14th in New York City, and God bless you all.